This is a Nintendo 3DS, one of the most iconic handheld consoles to have ever existed. Besides allowing you to play some of Nintendo's most iconic game franchises like Super Smash Bros., The Legend of Zelda, and the list goes on, one of the most interesting things about the DS lineup of consoles are its cameras. So, I decided to record a wedding on one of these. Now, if you grew up with one of these iconic consoles, you might have even just been recording a lot of silly stuff yourself. Maybe you recorded your siblings, maybe you recorded your pets, or even if you were going on road trips, which this was the perfect console to have, maybe all you did was just record the other cars passing by from the window of your parents' car. I don't know what you did. I wasn't there. You know. I think for a lot of kids, this was definitely their first ever exposure to a camera that belonged to them. Well, I never experienced any of that. I actually got my first DS console about 6 months ago in my late 20s. So now that I'm an adult and a professional videographer, I kind of wanted to mess around with this camera. So yes, that meant recording my client's very first kiss as a husband and wife on one of these. I hope they don't fire me. Coming in with a surprising resolution of 640 by 480p with only 0.3 megapixels. Now, I don't know if you know anything about cameras or resolution, but that basically means this camera sucks. Putting it simply, that means that the footage from the 3DS is 108 times smaller than the footage from my professional cinema camera. That's a big difference. Being that I hadn't really messed around with the camera since I got my 3DS, I decided to get some test footage just so I could see the recording capabilities of the 3DS and also how the footage looked. And my first impressions were the footage coming out of the 3DS basically looks like it was shot on a potato. And that's not a compliment. During the daytime, the footage actually looked surprisingly very good. Now, when the lighting conditions got less favorable, the footage coming out of 3DS really started to fall apart. You start getting all this noise in your thing and the camera's trying to do a lot of digital brightening, and it just messed up the whole footage. Now, I wasn't expecting the footage of the 3DS to blow my socks off or anything like that, but I knew I had to do whatever I could in order to get the most out of that little tiny camera sensor in that 3DS camera. Now, one of the things that I thought about doing was actually rigging out or building a little sort of contraption to hold my 3DS, that way I can get more stable shots and maybe potentially put a small light around there somewhere. That way, if the lighting conditions started to suck, I could just turn on that light and get better footage, even when the lighting conditions weren't the best. Now, this is something that I even do for my cameras. I usually like to rig them out just so I can get the most cinematic footage out of that camera. But honestly, after I built the little cinema rig for the 3DS, it looked ridiculous. I was a little bit too embarrassed to actually pull that out and use it the day of the wedding.
Can you see how ridiculous this looks? Like, I know I'm doing it for YouTube, but like filming a whole wedding with this would have been terrible. What is this? This is a monstrosity. So yeah, this is why I decided just to go with the DS and handheld it.
So I was just gonna be filming like I am the gimbal, I am the rig. This basically meant that any footage I wanted to get, I had to hold the DS as steady as possible to not introduce that super crazy camera shake like I was recording a fight on an iPhone. Now, I tend to film a lot of stuff handheld even with my professional camera, so this wasn't something that I was too worried about. I trusted in myself to be able to get steady shots even with a really unconventional build of how this is. Like, this is nowhere near how. That's Hello Kitty. I hope you guys like her. She's pretty cool. So yeah, this is not a conventional camera, so holding this was gonna be different and it was gonna be a bit of a challenge. Now, one of the challenges that I ran into is that if I wanted to really see what I was recording, I had to actually hold the 3DS kind of like right in front of my face. Something like this. It looks ridiculous. I look like a freaking mom on a tourist trip to like the Grand Canyon with her giant iPads. You've seen them, right? Not only is this super high angle, kind of really unflattering when you're deciding to film stuff at that high of an angle. So I decided to stick to my usual filming angle, which kind of made me end up kind of like hunching over, kind of like this. Like I hold it, but I'm like doing this to see what's going on. So at the end of the day, I just looked like a freaking shrimp playing video games. And I mean, that was silly, but it felt better. But I'm very curious to hear, how would you feel if you saw your videographer, who you paid thousands of dollars to film this beautiful moment for you, hunched over, holding a 3DS, and just saying, okay, can you do that again? I mean, I think I know the answer, but I mean, you guys can grill me in the comment sections. Please go ahead. Would you love it? Would you hate it? I don't know. What do you think? But before filming the actual wedding, I actually ran this idea by my friend Nathan. He was actually going to be the main videographer the day of the wedding. I was just going to be there assisting him to get extra shots and extra footage as his secondary shoot. And after I told him, all he basically said was, oh my God. I mean, the couple is super chill and I don't think they'll mind, but you're cursed, bro. That's literally how you sound. I love you, Nathan. So I basically had my green light to make this dumb idea come to light. Now, when we were at the wedding, for the first 2 to 3 hours, there's definitely a lot of stuff going on. You have people getting ready, you have people super mad because they haven't had anything to eat, you have nervous people crying in the back. It's just a lot of hectic things going. I guess luckily, thanks to that hectic just nature of how a wedding works in the first couple of hours, no one really noticed me as I would pull out my 3DS to get some shots. Regardless, every time I pulled out the 3DS, I felt like one of the bridesmaids was just gonna drop kick me and tell me like, do your job, bro. So every time I would take it out, I would just be like, oh, wait, don't mind me. Now, once the ceremony was over and we finally had the couple to ourselves to shoot their solo little romantic, like lovey-dovey scenes, we had to come clean with what we were doing that day. Now, honestly, I was super nervous when this was happening, but the couple loved the idea. I even showed them some of the shots that I had been getting throughout the day, and they just started busting out in laughter. They were like, dude, like, why is this happening? But I love it. Please keep doing more. Okay, so I was happy because I thought I was legit gonna get like me and Nathan fired from that gig, and I was gonna be like, Dan, dude, I'm sorry. I hope your refund policy is solid, my guy. Okay, so I feel like I've been hyping up this video so far, and I've probably shown a little bit of clips of what I captured throughout the day, but this is the wedding highlight that I filmed on my 3DS. Check it out. I actually really like how this came out. Not only did the 3DS manage to capture some beautiful moments between the couple through a retro lens, but it also gave all the footage this like super 90s VHS handycam camcorder type of look that, I mean, people like just throw a bunch of layers on their footage to make it look this way, and this just looked like that right out of the camera. Now, we live in a time where every camera has, like, it just blows my mind how much detail cameras these days can capture. Now, even phone cameras these days are super crazy amazing with what they can do with footage. Now, don't get me wrong, I love what cameras can do nowadays, and you can get a camera that does a lot for very little money, but there's a level of charm that I was able to give the footage just by filming it with the 3DS that I don't think I could have gotten with these super crazy expensive, high quality, sharp cameras. Now, does this mean that I will take my 3DS to every wedding that I film? I mean, maybe. I always do end up carrying some sort of handheld console on me at all times. Even when I go do shoots, I always have either my 3DS, my PSP, or like my Vita on me just to be able to play if the time kind of comes up. That's kind of what happens when you're addicted to video games. It's not an addiction, it's just a hobby that I like to do all the time. I could stop if I wanted to. In honor of your childhood and nostalgia, if you have your 3DS lying around, why don't you take it out? Take a crack at that camera, see what you can get. Right now, we live in the age of posting everything to social media, so I'm pretty sure you can get some cool little videos of like just you and your dog, or like you and your significant other just hanging out through a lens of an awesome console like this. And even if you're not interested in actually using the camera on the 3DS, it would be actually very cool if you checked out your old game library on that thing. So get out your 3DS, dust it off, and put some more hours into Mario Kart or whatever it is that you're into. Now, if you grew up with a 3DS, what type of silly stuff did you do with that camera? Or did you even use that camera? If you didn't use the camera, I would love to hear any game recommendations that you might have for a person watching this video, or even just for me. Drop them down in the comment section down below, guys. I would really love to hear your experience with this camera and also what games you played. So thank you guys so much for checking out today's ridiculous video. I really do hope you enjoyed this silly little experiment that I did. And if you haven't done so already, I would really appreciate it if you subscribed, liked, and commented on the video. So thank you guys so much, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace! That's fun.